recipe for great food is simple. Make it fresh. Wings to go in Greenville, where every order is a custom order made with fresh ingredients. Wings to go, 7818 Wesley Street in Greenville. Simply great wings.
Need a part for the right price? Look for that red and blue sign. Henley Auto Supply at 1510 Stonewall. Over 800,000 CarQuest parts to choose from. Domestic, European, and Asian parts. Henley Auto Supply at 903-455-1969. 455-1969. Henley Auto Supply has the right part to keep your vehicle running. And backed by the best hometown service. Henley Auto Supply. Great people, great products, great prices. Henley Auto Supply and CarQuest.
Okay, I'm going to call this meeting to order. Thank you for coming today. Please stand for the invocation offered by Marilyn Iverson, the Gift Church. Hello, how are you tonight?
I just wanted to pray today for the mayor, Jerry Manson, the mayor pro tem, Al Atkins, chairman of the board members, just the entire Chamber of Commerce, the families, and all the people that they love, the businesses and the churches that we know in this community, and the citizens of Greenville, Texas. I just wanted to mention real quick that the Psalm 46:10 is one of my favorite, and it's be still and know that I am God. And it is very comforting to know that God is in this place and that He is still powerful and comforting. And I just pray that that infiltrates our hearts and minds. Dear Lord Jesus, we just thank you for today. We thank you for your wisdom and your mercy and your kindness. I pray that you show your love to everyone here and every family that's represented. I pray that guide and direct their thoughts and their feelings and everything that they need for extra blessings as they go forward through the holidays, through Thanksgiving and Christmas. And I just pray that you bless this meeting and that it bring you to glory and honor. In Jesus' name we pray these things.
Amen.
Please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Please be seated. We have some proclamations tonight. Is Mr. Turner here? See Mr. Turner? Well, okay, I thought John would be here tonight. We have a, guess I'll read the proclamation anyway. Yes, sorry. This is a proclamation recognizing November 11th as Veterans Day, whereas the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month marked the day the armistice ending World War I, the war of all wars, went into effect, and whereas President Woodrow Wilson proclaimed November 11 as the first commemorative Armistice Day in 1919, and whereas an act approved in 1938 made the 11th day of November of each year a legal holiday, whereas at the urging of service organizations after World War II and the Korean War, Congress amended the Act of 1938 by striking out the word armistice and inserting veterans in its place, whereas with the approval of this legislation passed in 1954, November 11th became a day to honor American veterans of all wars, and now therefore we encourage all Americans to recognize the valor and sacrifice of our veterans and their families and unite to ensure proper observance of this anniversary. Where in my hand I sign this proclamation. And I'd like for all veterans to stand tonight, if you would, so we could all be recognized. And thank you for your service very much. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. And I know John wanted to be here today. He organized the Veterans Parade. I think, spoke with him yesterday. I think he was a little bit disappointed. I think there may have been more, he felt there were more people in the parade than there were people watching the parade. And I think we have some ideas next week or next year how maybe we can work together. I know there were a number of other events, including the fly-in that was well attended, very well attended the whole day, and I'm sure that was a little bit of a distraction, and I'm hopeful that next year we can combine those efforts and make it a better day to recognize our veterans. The city council, or the city will be closed on Thursday, by the way. I want to announce that, so thank you very much. The next proclamation I have is a proclamation for lights after school, and I don't know if they're good. Come forward, please. Thank you. Would you be kind enough to introduce yourselves?
I don't really need a microphone. Sorry. I'm Amber Blackshear. I'm the Greenville ISD ACE Family Engagement Specialist, and the Lights On After School program is my yearly baby.
Okay.
And I'm Johanna Friedel. I'm the director of the ACE program here in Greenville.
Thank you. And I want to just mention every day during the school year, about 8 million children are going unsupervised after school. After-school programs keep kids safe and help working families and inspire learning. There's a growing body of evidence that demonstrates that improvements in attendance, behavior, and academic achievement among children to participate in these programs. Researchers have found that after-school programs encourage and foster parental involvement, an important building block for student success. So I want to read this proclamation to you and provide it for you. Lights after school. Whereas hundreds of lights on after-school events across the country are being held to spotlight the tremendous amount of support given to children academically on a daily basis, as well as to address challenges like hunger and food insecurity that their families may face. And whereas after-school events are showcasing how after-school programs promote health and wellness and install healthy habits which can last a lifetime, whereas participation in after-school programs has increased to 10.2 million students nationwide. It's grown. But still, 1 of 5 students in this country are unsupervised after school each day, and I'm sure each of you know that. Now, therefore, the City Council hereby acknowledges lights after school in advancing the health, safety, and welfare of our children in Greenville. Thank you very much. Here's the proclamation if you want it.
Thank you. Ours got a little wind blown.
Oh, okay. I think it did, yeah. Okay.
Thank you
very much. You bet. Thank you. It's a great program. And is there anyone here for Remember For Me? We had an event on Friday for Remember Me. I don't know if anyone's here for the proclamation, but I will to receive the proclamation. But I read it Friday, and we wanted to do it again at the city. And so I'm sure you know Remember For Me recognizes it's an organization that supports Alzheimer's caregivers and their patients, and I'll just leave it at that. Whereas Remember For Me is a vital Alzheimer's education and support organization which provides much needed support for patients and caregivers. Whereas Remember For Me offers a respite care program that bestows light housekeeping services, lawn care services, and finally, in-home care provided by licensed and bonded employees with Family First Home, that's a local agency. Whereas the nonprofit organization offers support to caregivers, promotes educational opportunities, answers questions, and various members are always willing to talk to others about Alzheimer's. And now, therefore, the City Council hereby thanks and applauds the Remember For Me organization and its members for the invaluable and much needed service they provide for patients and caregivers of Alzheimer's in our community. So we want to recognize them too. Thank you very much. And I'll give these to you at some point. Well, I'll take them. Okay. I wanted to say there are placeholders in your agenda, which if you have an agenda, one is for citizens to be heard for items that are either not on the agenda or scheduled for public hearing. So anything that's not on the agenda or scheduled for public hearing and citizens to be heard, it would be appropriate to comment at that time. And then, of course, we have public testimony that occurs when citizens are invited to address the council on anything that's on the agenda beyond item 7A tonight. We have no public hearings tonight, so that's how it will go. So are there citizens to be heard?
Dania Hernandez.
Please state your name and your address, please.
My name is Dania Hernandez, Reverend Dania Hernandez, pastor, and my address is 1118 Park Street.
Okay.
And my daughter, my grandchildren, and my son-in-law, we moved here recently. And the reason why I'm here is to salute this area and this city for the beautiful events that you have done. We were went to the parade. We were able to see all the veterans, and I got so emotional during that time, you know, to see how the veterans were lifted up. And then after that, we went to the fly-in, and we were treated with so much respect and love and care that this is why we came here tonight to tell you thank you. And we are glad that we're part of this community. And I will be very happy to do whatever we can to help.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Lauren Barstow.
How are you? I'm Lauren Barstow. I live at 127 Frank Street, and I'm just here to say that I support the streetlights.
Okay.
Talk about the streetlights.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Sue Locke.
I'm Sue Locke, and my address is 1012 Cheryl Street, one of the new divisions that are in town. I would really like to support the streetlight situation that we're looking at. We've got a lot of people coming into this community from outside areas, and I think we need to set the standard for the city. Park Street has the historical street signs that are up. I think we just need to continue to improve on this, show everyone that's coming into this community why they're coming into it. We've got people from California, Washington State, Oregon, and I just think that going forward, lights need to be improved. We've got so many things to offer, and the new developments that are coming in, I just think we need to continue with the streetlights and the improvements that we've got going on. So, thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Rick Mosley.
Hi, I'm Rick Mosley. I live at 8001 Old Mill Road here in Greenville. I'm a lifelong resident of Greenville and own a business in Greenville for about 40 years here. Mayor Ransom, appreciate you and the City Council allowing us a forum we can come and speak with you about issues in Greenville that affect us. Driving around the other night, just doing a roof count with a friend who formerly lived in Greenville, showing him all the new and improved things that are going on in the city. We drove through the Stonewood addition, showed him the beautiful stone wall, the divided median with the new street lights, and just all the general amount of rooftops that are going up in that area to support our tax base here in Greenville. I spoke to the builder a couple of days later, complimenting him on what a good job he was doing, and he told me he was getting a little pushback over the street light issue. I thought the street lights were beautiful myself. I thought I can't see that they wouldn't meet any particular codes or requirements for the city. Apparently they're used in other cities in this area. I just asked the City Council to maybe make a phone call, send an email, see what the pushback is on the streetlight issue. And I think we have bigger things in the city to worry about than a builder that wants to do an upgraded streetlight. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Mosley.
Sulaine Underwood.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Sulaine Underwood, and I live on 1016 Sherrill Drive in Greenville, Texas. And I'm just delighted to be here and to express the need we have to turn on our lantern street lights in Stonewall Estates. Many of my neighbors are retired, and we very much appreciate the charm and the charisma these lantern street lights represent. We love living in Stonewood and appreciate Larry Ellis and his son Scott for bringing the uniqueness of the street lights, the beauty of them, to the city of Greenville. Thank you.
Thank you.
Dale Mason.
Hello, I'm Dale Mason. I live at 1004 Eva Drive in the Stonewood Estates. I'm also here on behalf of the streetlights. They are beautiful. And I'd also like to say that in my own personal opinion and observation, they provide much more luminescence than the ones even in their surrounding neighborhoods. So I'm not sure what the holdup is, but I ask you as a personal favor of me and the rest of us that live in the addition, give us those lights. They are beautiful, and they do add to the atmosphere and the uniqueness of our city. And for someone that grew up here, graduated high school here, and now will probably live here until my life is over, I would appreciate it, count a personal favor, if you would do that for us.
Donna Loveland.
Evening. My name is Donna Loveland, and I live at 1004 Grayson Lane. I moved over here from Plano, so I know the lights. I don't understand what the issue is. I have 2 small animals that I walk in the evening, and the lights are very bright, and I feel safe with them, and I would appreciate if you could approve them. Thank you.
Shelley Corrales.
My name is Shelley Corrales. I live at 1018 Sherrill Drive. I'm the president and CEO of the Greenville Chamber of Commerce, and I also sit on the board of Keep Greenville Beautiful. As we all know, Greenville is growing with new businesses, and in return, will be bringing new neighborhoods. It is estimated that 18,000 homes will be built here in the next 5 to 6 years, bringing about 40,000 residents to Greenville. I was told several months ago by an individual that sits in this room that a business who had agreed to come to Greenville denied Greenville because of the way certain areas look. I am sure that all of you can agree that community beautification is extremely important. A visually appealing community increases property values, attracts business, and improves neighborhoods' images. Beauty is one of 3 most influential factors in community attachment. Research shows that a nice-looking neighborhood promotes good behavior. It affects the way people interact and the way they feel, not only about their neighborhood, but about themselves and their neighbors. As a result, it can make a huge difference in the quality of life for a neighborhood or a city. So to sum it up, community beautification, it attracts new residents, it attracts new businesses, it attracts entertainment and culture, it improves neighborhood and community health, and it builds stronger neighborhood relationships. I happen to have built a home during this past year in the newest neighborhood being built in Greenville, Stonewood Estates. The first phase is completed, and I am proud of all the work that Scott and Larry Ellis have done. I am proud of all the differences in thought that each homeowner put into building their home to make this neighborhood unique. I drive into Stonewood Estates off of Center Point with its beautiful stone entrance, newly installed street lamps, smooth concrete streets and sidewalks with nicely landscaped yards with trees and flowers. And I see children playing and people walking their dogs. This is the epitome of community beautification and all I described earlier. The Ellises recently informed me that the newly installed street lamps were not approved and needed to be replaced with wooden poles, and I ask myself why, especially when the builder is not willing to skimp on quality. Who at the city doesn't understand community beautification? I do hope that this neighborhood and the new neighborhoods being constructed in the near future are allowed by the city to include visually appealing street lamps and not wooden posts, so that you as a council can listen to more important issues taking place in the city besides street lamps. Greenville, Texas, it can be more than what you imagined.
Thank you.
Darlene Cox.
Hello, my name is Darlene Cox, and I reside with my husband at 1011 Eva Drive in Greenville, Texas, in Stonewood Estates. I've been a paralegal for over 40 years, and as I understand, there is a memorandum of understanding in place. And why someone would renege on that, I don't understand, but I don't want to go into the law of that. I think one of the things that we need is to keep those streetlights in place. Why tear them down if they're already there? And the builder has offered to pay for the services. The homeowners will not be responsible for them. Also, besides beautification, it's also a safety factor. So why not get those streetlights turned on? They're already there. Why go back and why renege? So I believe the streetlights need to be turned on. They're already there, and they're there for beautification. But I think the most important thing is for safety. But thank you very much.
Thank you.
Phyllis Reagan.
Good evening. I'm Phyllis Reagan, and I live at 1004 Sherrill Drive in Stonewood Estates. We're actually new to this neighborhood. I came from Caddo Mills in April, so Greenville's a little bit new to me, but we love our new home here, and we love our neighborhood there at Stonewood Estates. We believe that the Ellises have built some lovely, affordable homes in Stonewood Estates, and they've not only built houses, but they're trying to build a community. Recently, the Ellises installed the street lights on black metal poles. These lights look really nice and should light up the neighborhood if we can get the lights turned on. I'm just asking you to please turn those lights on for us. Thank you.
Thank you.
David Dreiling.
Dave Dreiling, 6302 Villa Fontana. You may wonder why I'm here to talk about streetlights. I don't live in the subsections, but I've been hired as a consultant by Mr. Ellis to address the issue. The problem, as you may or may not know, seems to be a conceived problem with the illumination standard of the lights Mr. Ellis wants to put in. The Director of Public Works says these lights do not meet city specifications as identified in tables 5.9-6 of the City Code Ordinance. Well, I went and looked up the City Code Ordinance, looked in section 5.9, and you can find that ordinance on the city webpage. Section 5.9 is exterior lighting, and I looked to see what was the actual specification. It should be noted that as I read it, I found that the tables in 5.9-6 do not set a standard illumination requirement. And I quote, section 5.9-6, illumination standard. All site lighting shall not exceed the intensities and uniformity ratios in the tables below unless otherwise specified herein. It's not specified anywhere else in there. Now, it does not say that these streetlights have to meet the numbers that are in there. It says, do not exceed those numbers. So to put that in a different perspective, we all drive here and you see speed limit signs that says 30 miles an hour. Don't exceed that or you violate the rule. If you drive slower than that, it's okay. So if the illumination standards that the Public Works Director is trying to impose says do not exceed, if it's below that, then you're in compliance. I've had 2 meetings with the Public Works Director to work on streetlights. The first was just a brief meeting. I had a second one where we spent an hour talking about the issues and came to an agreement that I followed up with a memo that I sent to him, to the director, and Mr. Ellis, identifying what I felt was agreed. I asked if there was anything that you had a question on, please contact me. It was a month later before the director says, oh, I'm sorry, I don't agree with all of that, and he tries to impose some of the things that were agreed on that didn't affect back then. I'm out of time, and there's a lot of issues that I could talk about, but the bottom line is I request the city manager and the city council review and evaluate the requirements that are being imposed only on Mr. Ellis's subdivision and possibly come up with a good solution for a ordinance or a requirement for residential and one for city streets such as Wesley and Lee Street, because no neighborhood wants their entire area to be dressed up like Wesley Street. Sorry for taking too much time. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Dreiling. Anybody else?
Hammonds.
My name is Jack Ammons. I live at 1018 Eva Drive in the Stonewood Estates, Greenville, Texas. I have heard several times about a problem with a street lighting agreement between city elected officials and developer Larry Ellis. It is true night lighting is necessary for all Greenville residents. It is also true the residents of Stonewood are investing their money as well as their faith in Larry Ellis and the city of Greenville elected officials. I know most of the people addressing this issue. All parties are quite capable and trustworthy. We taxpayers just want our leaders to commit themselves to a solution that will result in a comfortable and secure environment for all Greenville residents. Thank you.
Scott
Thank you.
Ellis.
Scott Ellis, 501 Traders Road. First of all, I'd like to thank the council for their service and their time. I appreciate y'all. Probably didn't plan on listening to the streetlights for 30 minutes, and so I want to thank y'all for being here. We simply want the best for our community, and we want to take our neighborhood to the next level. It's that simple. As a builder and developer, we've added millions to the tax base, and we're in favor of impact fees. We've taken a risk and build bigger homes. We took that risk. We want to build the premier neighborhood in Greenville. Take a look at our lights. Go take a look and see for yourself and make the choice. Thank you.
Thank you.
James Evans.
James Evans, 6410 Buena Vista Drive, Greenville, Texas, 75402. Today I took time to go down to downtown Greenville, and I parked out in front across from the municipal building. I saw the two beautiful light fixtures, metal poles, great lights. I went down to Lee Street and parked and just walked the sidewalks, looking at how nice the metal light fixtures look on Lee Street. I go drive through Caddo Mills Additions, got friends there. I was in Forney the other day, Heath, Rockwall, all in the last couple of months, visiting friends. They've got metal light poles in their neighborhoods. They look great. They look super clean. They're great. The first house I ever went to that Larry Ellis had built before Scott joined, he was still coaching at the time, was behind Carver School. He built a single house. He had an open house, invited a bunch of people in town to go there, and I went. What I saw was his electrician, his sign maker, all the people that worked for him there. He greeted people. He showed us around. He was so proud of what he had done. I've seen that same thing carry over in all the additions that he's got in Greenville. Stonewood, I've got friends out there. I've sent people to them because I knew that Larry would take care of them and Scott would take care of them. You cannot go out there and stand for a few minutes in the front yard. Scott's driving by or Larry's driving by to take care of any needs and to visit with people. All I ask you to do is let's move into the 21st century. Let's stop these wooden poles in Greenville. Let's put in things that are up to date and look attractive. As an earlier speaker just said, let's make this place attractive when people come in and want to stay here and be a part of our town and grow it. Again, we're dealing with a developer that has never questioned, he's made this quite clear, he's never questioned his taxes. He's put ads in the paper that you've all seen the last couple of days for impact fees. What a developer. He wants the best for Greenville. He's proud of his addition. I want to also say thank you in 47 seconds here to Friendly News, Gabe Medina, and Friendly. I found out by accident, I put in an open records request. I needed to get something I wanted to double check on the recordings of the last council meeting, and I found out that they were not being taped anymore. So again, I want to thank Friendly News and their sponsors. They use sponsors, the city doesn't pay them, but they use sponsors to keep the town informed of what takes place. And again, thank you, Friendly News. Gabe, you're here tonight. Tell Friendly I said the same thing about him. But again, I love this town. I want to see it grow the right direction. I know you do too. Thank you for the time to speak tonight. Appreciate it. Let's get the lights on in Stonewood.
Timothy
you.
Money.
Hello, I'm Timothy Money, and I live at 1494 Private Road, 1174, Greenville, Texas. I don't live inside city limits, but I work for Scott Ellis Homes, and we're proud of what we do. Scott and Larry make amazing homes and a lighting system that would complement that would look really great for Greenville. I lived here my whole life, and I'm really proud of Greenville, but I think Greenville needs to be moving forward and looking better. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's it.
Is that everybody? Okay, I'd like to, normally at Citizens to be Heard, we don't respond to citizens who speak, but I want to take this opportunity to just clear up a few issues and address some of the things that have come up tonight. And first of all, I want to just compliment Larry and Scott Ellis for the great job they do. I don't know if you realize we built almost 500 new homes in Greenville this year, and the lion's share of those, I'm sure, are Ellis homes. And so certainly appreciate everything you've done, the beautiful neighborhoods you've built, and we're glad to have you here. This isn't anything about Scott Ellis homes. I want to explain to the audience the way street lights work, because they're just exactly like streets. When streets are built, the developer does the street, and we've inspected it, then the developer gives it to the city, and we maintain it in perpetuity. Same thing for street lights. When a developer develops, they pay for the street light, Juice comes and hooks it up, and then we take care of the maintenance and the electricity on it in perpetuity. So that you can think of that in the same way. This isn't about wooden poles. Some of you have mentioned that. In March 2020, the issue came up about wooden poles, and I walk in a regular area all the time and have wooden poles, and yes, they are unsightly, and it's time to move our city forward with that regard. So in about March 2020, the city worked with Juice, and the reason they worked with Juice is Juice maintains all the lights, light poles and lights all over our city. They worked with Juice to adopt a street light standard that included a metal pole and a light and something that met our illumination standards, okay? So 3 key areas there. And the illumination standard, I should say, includes health and safety issues. Now, I mentioned I walk. Sometimes I walk in the early morning when it's dark. The neighborhood I walk in is dark. There are other people who walk there with flashlights, but we don't have potholes, but I'm still concerned at times when it's really dark that I might stumble and fall. And I'm also somewhat concerned in today's culture about possible criminal activity when it's so dark at night. Most of them have gone to sleep at 5 o'clock in the morning, and that's when I'm walking, but I'll say that. We can't be in a position, the city, because we have to inventory the light that we support, okay? Whatever light we have, we have to support that light. We can't be in a position, and I'm not suggesting that Mr. Ellis has done this, but we can't be in a position where developers are coming in and saying, I want to use street light A, and the next one says, I want to use street light B and C and whatever, and expect the city to support those lights forever. And and that's what we're committing to when we use one of our street lights. Apparently, at some point in the summer of 2020, this became an issue with Mr. Ellis, where he wanted to use what is described, I think, as a pedestrian light. And I'm not aware of any meeting, but I do know, and we have the email that Mr. Ellis sent to Mayor Dreiling at the time that said he wanted to use a different street light. And in that email, he said, we both know you, being the mayor, can make it happen. Mayor Dreiling forwarded Ellis's email to the city manager and asked her to check into it, and she sent it to the Director of Public Works, Press, and in turn, he responded with an email, which the mayor forwarded to Mr. Ellis, clearly stating that the proposed street light did not meet city standards, the standards that we had established in March. And I was finally copied on a portion of that thread, And at that point, I assumed the issue was closed. That email happened in August the 7th of 2020, when the mayor forwarded the response to Mr. Ellis, it's telling him that the street light that he wanted to use did not meet our standards. The reason it didn't, it's more than just your neighborhood. We're expecting to support that light forever in that neighborhood. Understand that. So, sometime after I became, I assumed at that point, and I would assume from the response that the mayor gave me that that issue had been solved. I assumed it was done. I hadn't heard about it until sometime after I became mayor in May, when Mr. Ellis called me and started talking to me about streetlights. And so I naturally called the city manager to ask what had happened. And she wasn't aware of anything, so I called Mayor Dreiling to ask of them, because I thought Mayor Dreiling had put this to bed. I thought it was a resolved issue. Over 15 months ago, I thought it was a resolved issue. I'm assuming the mayor did. When I asked him about it, he very firmly said they have to meet the standard. Mayor's here. I think he'll confirm I said that. I think Mr. Ellis will confirm the conversations I've had. So now at some point, Mr. Ellis has hired Mayor Dreiling, who's my mayor, to represent him regarding this matter. And I think the city is, I want you to know that the city continues to work on this issue. The city staff is working on this issue. It's not an item that's on the agenda. It's not anything the city council can vote on. We're committed to working on this issue as long as hopefully we can be resolved. But I want you to know that this issue didn't come up because you didn't have lights at Halloween. The memo that Mr. Ellis got on August the 7th of 2020, 15 months ago, should have been a red flag that something is amiss in the use of this street light. And I want the citizens to know that. I don't know whose fault it is. I'm not trying to place blame, but the city has attempted to resolve this issue. So I want to clear that up. We'll continue to work on it with Mr. Ellis and hopefully, and Scott, and I hope it can be resolved. So that's the statement that I have, and that's all I have to say about it. Thank you very much. Now we'll move into Ordinance 7A, consideration and an action on an ordinance amending Section 2.04, duties and powers of boards and commissions, to planning and zoning. And thank you for coming tonight. Appreciate your comments. Appreciate your interest. Planning and Zoning Commission to revise the code. This is an issue that I brought up where I believe the Planning and Zoning Commission is one of the most important commissions in our city. At this time, we have Board of Development, we have P&Z, and we appoint juice members. This is a very important commission, and I personally believe that it's so important with the growth that we're seeing that the City Council, in addition to appointing members to the Planning and Zoning Commission, should also have the ability to appoint the chairman. And so I'm bringing this forward to the council tonight. So is there any public testimony regarding this issue?
James Evans.
Okay.
James Evans, 6410 Buena Vista Drive, Greenville, Texas, 75402. I've told you many times how great P&Z is, the members. And on their own tonight, I noticed 3 more people up here at the front. We've almost got a quorum. Would have had to post it, I guess, to come up tonight. They stay very interested. I was honored this year to be appointed for 3 years on P&Z. The way I've run schools, I did that for 44 years, committees, boards, commissions, and all that in the school district. You share, whether it's a grade level chair or whatever, you move it around, and you don't keep somebody in the place until they die or they retire. That's not what you do. And I have told one council member up here at the front, wearing a coat and a tie right now, and I've told several people on the committee, not all, but I told them this a year ago. I was honored when they voted me in as chair. But again, I told them back then, 1 year, this is nothing new, and they can get up here tonight and put a polygraph on them. That's what I did. I told them last year I would do it for 1 year, and I want it to be shared. You share things, that makes the group stronger. That's how you build teams. That's what I've done my whole life, whether I'm riding bicycles or whether I'm working school or whether I'm working P&Z or something for the city, it needs to be shared. So whatever you decide tonight is great. I have no problem with it at all. But again, it needs to be one of our other strong members on there, and they're all strong. Pick wisely, and looking forward to another good year of P&Z. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Evans. Is there any other public testimony?
No.
If not, what is the pleasure of the council?
Mayor, I've got a couple of questions, if you don't mind, on this. I understand the purpose, but Daniel, could you pull up section 2.04.002 in ordinance, please? I've got a question about that.
In the ordinance?
Yeah, 2.04.002. Basically what it says under ordinance, it says, the city council shall designate a chairperson for each individual board or commission. This is under the board and commissions tab in ordinance. Vice chairperson shall be elected by the individual board or commission.
Where is it?
2.
You're talking about in the code of ordinances?
Yeah.
Or in the ordinance that we're talking about?
In the code of ordinance.
Oh, okay. I'm looking in the wrong place. I've got to look that up. I'm not going to have it looked up for you got to give me a couple of seconds.
Yeah, no problem. I just want to get a clarification because, Mayor, I believe that we, as council, are required to designate a chairperson for every board and commission that we appoint. The language is very clear. The city council shall designate. It doesn't mean we can slough it off to an individual commission. So I'm wondering if we need, before we pass this change to ordinance, if we need to get it right the first time.
Sounds like we do. I think there is a procedure well, there's not a procedure in place for juice, which is somewhat independent.
Right,
I think
because
that would be independent
juice
of
is
that.
spun
Right.
off into their separate charter.
Yeah, right.
But we have 10 boards and commissions, and if you recall, we just, on the impact fee committee at the time you appointed it, we did not appoint a chairman. So subsequently, you know, Councilmember Collins agreed to do it, handcuff volunteer, but I'm wondering if we need to go back and reappoint him or whether we need to review all the boards and commissions and make sure the council has appointed the chairman. And the other question that I have is it seems to be it doesn't address it. What would be the term of the chairmanship? Would it be an annual or at will of the council?
I'm still looking this up, so I'm not listening to your question.
I know you're
I will listen
listening
to your question, but I've got to find, before I can answer your other question, I have to look up the thing that you're talking about.
Okay, under general ordinances, chapter
I'm going to have to look it up. Just give me a second. The computer's being real slow. All right.
What?
Okay,
Term,
so tell me the specific number of the section you're talking about.
Section 2.04.002. I just want to make sure I'm reading this correctly.
Okay, I have it in front of me. So the sentence says, the city council shall designate a chairperson for each individual board or commission. Vice chairpersons shall be elected by the individual board or commission. That's what you're talking about? Yeah.
So I guess my question is, do we really need to revise the existing ordinance other than to drop the position of secretary?
Right.
And the other question is, when the council does that appointment, and it's not addressed anywhere I can find, what the term of that appointment would be. Do we do it for the 3 years that the individual's on, or do we change it annually?
I think this ordinance says it's each time P&Z members are appointed every year.
Well, it says in section 2.04.034, a little further down, that each commission shall hold an organizational meeting annually.
Yeah.
Following the qualifications of newly appointed members thereto, it shall elect or appoint a secretary and other officers as it deems necessary. So I would think.
So
we
the
would just follow
conflict
same
every
pattern.
year.
Yeah.
Yeah, the conflict would be that the appointment or the appointment subcommittee would have to go through and appoint the chairman
Appoint
every
a
year.
chairman.
Yeah, each
Or
year.
recommend, well, they'd recommend a chairperson to the council
So-
for approval.
Right,
just like we do.
recommend
Yeah.
it.
Probably then what we should do is amend the ordinance to say that we'll do it annually.
Yeah, we can certainly do that by adding a couple of words. I understand what you're saying. That's the general part. The more specific part's down low. What Ben is talking about is that more specific part is not as clear.
Right, it's not as clear, and I was just wondering if maybe, should we kick this over to the policy committee and review it and then bring it back as a whole to cover all boards and commissions, or should we go ahead and do this and then change it again?
It requires all boards and commissions. Why don't we do it now? I mean, ready to do it now.
Yep. We kind of know what we need to do, I think.
We have some appointments coming up at the end of the year, various committees, so I think we should do it now.
Okay.
So
Just
if
wanna
Daniel
make
can
sure
give us the
we-
language to make it all-inclusive.
If someone wants to make a motion to make that an all-inclusive rule, then they should just say, I move that we make this rule where we appoint the chairman, and we appoint them for a certain number of years for the full term, or the full remaining term. Then we can amend this ordinance in a little bit to make it say exactly and specifically that.
Okay.
It's not going to be changing this one section. It's going to probably be changing 2 or 3. But if that's the pleasure of the council, we can put that in the ordinance and then deal with the specific citations later, as long as the intention of the council is clear.
Would you like to make that motion, Mr. Atkins?
I will certainly make that motion, because I think it's been in ordinance, obviously, since the ordinance was created, because the last revision date, I believe it says, wow, forever and ever. Yeah, so it is the intent for council to appoint the chairman of any committee. So would this include ad hocs, Daniel? The way that is written? That would include ad hocs.
If you want it to include ad hocs, then you should say that in the motion. Because as it stands right now, that section that you
include ad
cited
hocs.
does include that.
Well, I'll make the motion that we make section 2.04.002 inclusive of all the established city boards and commissions.
And for that appointment to last for the full term of the person who is appointed.
No.
Right.
Just 1 year.
Just
And
1 year. Okay.
And to be reviewed annually by the Appointments Council
Committee.
Subcommittee.
And recommended by
And
the
recommended to
council. As
council
recommended
for
by the
renewal.
council.
Does that make sense?
That makes sense. You get all that, Carol? Yeah, we can definitely do that. So if somebody wants to second that motion, you can vote on that.
Okay. Motion and second, please vote. Okay, that motion passes unanimously, so we'll move to
Thank you,
item
Daniel.
B, consideration and action on an item temporarily waiving overdue fines as listed in 816.03.05, Appendix A. Olivia?
Yes, sir. Evening, Mayor and Council. This would be, yes, temporarily waiving the collection of overdue fines. This does not affect fees for materials. This is just late fines that we're referring to here. For the amount of time listed here, the 10th through the 20th of November. And instead of collecting monetary compensation for that, we'd collect unexpired and non-perishable food items to be donated to Fish. We'll be collecting it on the behalf of Fish for the holiday season. But we think this would be a good opportunity for our patrons to have another way to pay off those fines and to benefit the Ministry of Fish, and they definitely could use more items during this time of year. So this is the first time we're doing this, so does anyone have any questions about how this might go?
Is it your hopes that you would do this on an annual basis?
Yes, on an annual basis, not necessarily always during holiday time, maybe changing that up because the need that we're trying to help meet is year-round anyway, so maybe instead of a holiday theme every year, perhaps one for the summer or one for Valentine's Day or something like that, not necessarily always this time.
Are there any questions, Olivia?
One more quick, Daniel, is the change written to make this on a one-time basis or an annual recurring? Or should we consider an annual recurring?
Let me get down to that particular ordinance.
Olivia, how much does the library collect in fees and fines every year?
That number is highly variable, and especially right now, any pattern was kind of decimated by COVID and how that
Can you give us
works.
a low and a high? Like, you don't collect $1 million a year, but you collect more than $10 a year.
Right. Our average each month is somewhere in the few hundreds, but it is not, the library is not a huge income source for the city anyway, and that's one of our smaller ones.
So would you say that amount of revenue to the library is inconsequential to your operations?
Yes, most definitely.
So maybe it would be reasonable to just let it be at the discretion of the library director? Instead of writing down annually or this one time, we could just leave it to.
Or with the approval of the city manager or whoever, yeah.
Sure. Yeah.
As opposed to needing an ordinance?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's not annual. It can be multiple times. And so basically the way that it's written is up to $20 worth of food, $1 per food item, up to $20 during the November 10th or November 20th time period this year will remove that amount from your fine. It doesn't go into any further detail about whether that's going to come up, whether that would apply to future years.
So if we decided to do it future, we should come forward with another ordinance to make that allowable, whatever
Yes.
section it is.
That's correct.
Okay.
I mean, based on the way that it's written right now.
You could do that by resolution though, right? Each year?
No, technically, because the penalties are in the ordinance,
Oh,
the
okay.
Code of Ordinances, you have to do it. One thing you could do right now is to make this a quarterly event at the discretion of the library director or the city manager. Also at whoever's discretion, how long it is. Because this one's set up for 10 days, but I mean, you might want to have, 15 days every 3 months or
Let's
whatever.
just say up to 10 days quarterly.
Yeah,
At the discretion of the library director.
that's good.
And city manager.
Sure. Why does summer have to be
And
involved? Come on.
yeah.
Well, hey, they all got to work together as staff. If you'll make the motion, Ben, are you making that motion?
Yeah,
Well,
I'll move.
wait a minute, I've got to ask for public testimony. Is there any public testimony regarding this issue?
Got to switch.
Thank you all for having me here. This is a blessing to be a part of this community. Gabe Medina, 601 Deer Drive. Gotta say, kudos. I mean, that was a brilliant idea. I don't know who came up with it, but it's brilliant. Fish does need a lot of support, especially right now, especially during these holiday seasons. But man, wow, what a great community. I mean, if we can we applaud this real quick? Just
Yeah,
what an amazing community to be a part of. Thank you very much.
thank you. Anyone else would like to speak? Okay. What is the pleasure of the council?
I would move that we would give the library director discretion to have a quarterly event of up to 10 days to accept food donations in lieu of collection of fines and fees with the approval of the city manager.
I second.
Okay, there's a motion and a second. Please vote. And it passes unanimously. Moving on to item 7C, consideration and action on an ordinance authorizing the purchase of a Pierce Commercial Ford Transit Command Center. Scott Smith. Oh, Will. Changed.
About that. Good evening, Mayor and Council. Once upon a time, the Greenville Police Department owned a command post. In 2018, the service or fleet maintenance manager deemed that vehicle a 1988, only 30 years old, Chevrolet box-style van, a affectionately known as the bread truck, to be unserviceable. This vehicle was used for city events, major crime scenes, any disaster that might occur. It's not only a command post, but also a communications center, something that is desperately needed now. Since this retirement has occurred, it's put the department at an extreme disadvantage in certain situations, such as, over the past 3 years, we have dealt with a homicide suspect that was barricaded during inclement weather for many hours, and 2 protests. Each of these incidents, along with all the other city events that we are normally called upon to staff for security, oversight, would have been an incident where a command post or mobile communications center would have been used to manage these events. Successful management of any incident requires communications, and this vehicle is equipped with state-of-the-art communications devices. The approval that we're seeking tonight for the Pierce Commercial Motor Vehicle Command Center is estimated at $264,000, has about a 12 to 13 month build out. There's a project number, PD 2200, that'll span, I believe, multiple years to allow us to make this purchase. Your questions?
I have a question. I know we approved bonds for radio upgrades in our city. Is this going to be compatible with what we're doing?
Yes. The vehicle will be equipped with multi-channel radios that will not only allow us to communicate with our state-of-the-art new radio system, but also to back talk through to the sheriff's office or anybody else that's still operating on the lower bands. That we will be on a different band with the new radio, but we're still going to have radios that will talk back to them.
Okay, it'll interact with all of our public safety
Yes.
personnel.
And we'll be able to pick up other staff, you know, if we need them.
Yes, one of the great things about this is the multi-channel radios will allow us to talk to any city department when our new radio system is in place. And something I think the council and the city staff, if we had a major disaster, would be interested in knowing. The computer system on board this vehicle would allow us to swap a credit card and transmit through an IP to any location that you might be at, so that you could see any type of footage that the onboard camera is seeing, or drone footage if we've got our drone deployed, which could be useful in decision making.
Any other questions?
Do we expect a 10, 15, 20-year useful life out of this?
I would say 20, if not more, because it won't be driven that many miles. It'll be driven to a location and it'll stay parked most of the time. It's something that probably will be driven every week just to make sure it's serviced on a regular basis, oil change, air pressure checked, everything that we normally do with all the other vehicles, but it's not something we're going to put a lot of miles on.
And other than technology, it'll run for keep us for a
and
while.
the technology is interchangeable. These racks that are built in these things, as technology changes, will allow us to plug and play with new stuff.
Thank
Chief,
you.
where would this be housed when it's not in use?
Well, with the city manager's help, I hope to erect a metal building behind the police department in the near future that's going to serve as a bay for the command post, our TAC van, and some storage that we're losing at 1702 Wesley.
Any other questions? If not, what is the pleasure of the council?
I would make a motion for authorization and purchase of the Ford Transit Command Center.
I'll second.
Please
Tim
vote.
did it, I think.
And it passes unanimously. Consideration and action on an ordinance authorizing a professional service agreement with Bartlett and West for professional services. Press Director of Public Works.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, City Council members. Yeah, this item is for the design of Majors Road, which is our new roadway going into our main entrance into the airport. We've been into a lot of discussions lately with L3 and the growth of the airport and what we're trying to do. And this is the very first step that we need to do to get the major road into the airport, which will become our entrance into our fixed base operation and our hangar space and the overall growth plan for the airport. So we'd like to get started on that and get the road design. That will help us hopefully secure federal funding for it if we have plans ready, shovel ready, ready to go. So we're asking permission to go ahead and enter into contract for design of Majors Road.
And we've worked through all environmental issues, and this is part of the airport plan.
Yes,
It's
sir.
been for at least a decade, if I
This is part of the
remember right.
airport master plan that we want to get this step implemented now.
Okay.
This is airport funds will be used to pay for this, I assume. Okay. Are there any questions for the council? I need to, is there any public testimony regarding this issue?
I did have one question. Maybe you said so and I missed it. When would this project be planned to start?
We start on design now.
Okay.
We're looking at a good 8 or 9 months design time. And like I said, we have airport funds available, and that once we get the design done, we'll get an estimate of probable cost and see where we stand at that point. But the first step is we need to get the design done, get that approved by the airport and everything that we had to plan for Majors Road.
Gotcha. So we would be here talking about it again in another year, potentially.
More than likely, when we act to go to a construction contract, yes, sir, we'd bring that back to you.
Okay.
But that also, that road would be paid for with airport funds also?
Yes, sir,
that
that
right?
is correct.
It's not a part of the, just full disclosure, it's not a part of the road bond that was originally passed
No,
for
it's
the
not
citizens.
part of the road bond, it is a
Right.
separate fund.
Right, it's on airport property, so.
Okay. Any other questions? Have I called for public testimony? Is there anyone like to speak on this? Not many people left. What's the pleasure of the council?
Move to approve?
Please vote. And it passes unanimously. Consideration and action on emergency ordinance authorizing Wisinger Incorporated to provide and install pump number 2 to be read at Lake Tawakoni. Press?
Yes, sir. This is, as you know, Tawakoni originally had 4 pumps running. By the grace of God, we got our first pump put back in. It is running superb. We are really pleased with the work this company did rebuilding that first pump. We already have a purchase order in for the second pump. This is actually the 3rd pump that we have to be rebuilt. We're getting these pumps rebuilt for about 1/3 of the cost of what a new pump would run. A new pump right now is a 25-week backlog. So they're able to rebuild these pumps in about 4, 5, 6 weeks, and that's it. So that would give us 3 working pumps. The council previously approved the 4th pump, which we've already put on order, and we're looking probably another 2 or 3 months before that comes in. So this gives us, when they through with this one, that will give us all 3 pumps working now at Tawakoni to meet our water demand.
And then the 4th pump would be a system spare?
Yes.
All right. Jerry, are there any questions? Not, is there public testimony regarding this issue? If not, what is the pleasure of the council?
I'll make a motion authorizing the Weisenberger Incorporated to provide and install pump number 2.
Second.
Okay, and it passes unanimously. Item F, 7F, consideration and action on an ordinance authorizing a professional services agreement with Bartlett and West for the design of a 36-inch parallel raw water transmission line for water treatment plant from Lake Tawakoni. Chris?
Yes, sir. This is the bond issue that y'all passed for the raw water line. And what we have found out, the environmental laws have changed dramatically since this was put into place in the early 60s. Our original plan was we were just hoping we could just parallel that. We are going to parallel it, but we still have to now meet all the new environmental regulations that we have to go by. In order to do that, we have to have the road designed. It has to be submitted to TCEQ. Corps of Engineers and numerous other agencies to get the permits so we can do this work. So we're trying to get that started now. So we figured it'd be about a 6 or 8 month process. We also we're gonna bring back to you later on, we're gonna start the clearing of the water line easement so we can get that started. So we're trying to get everything going so when we do be able to get the pipe and get going on it, we should be to meet our deadline. But we do have to have this design to meet all the environmental regulations and all the permitting requirements of today.
To be compliant, we need to, the expenditure of these funds for this bond need to be expended within a couple of years, right? Is that right? Is that the guidance that he gave us? I think it was, yeah, right? Yes. So is that compatible with our the schedule that we?
Yes, sir, it is. That's why we want to get started on it now.
Okay. Any questions from the council? This is a big deal. I'm excited about this, really good. I have to ask for public testimony. Is there any public testimony regarding this issue? This is a 36-inch water line that's going to extend about 20 miles, 22 miles from.
It's a little over 20 miles.
From Lake Tawakoni. It runs
right, from the pump.
Parallel essentially with Highway 69 to one of our reservoirs in the north side of town.
That is correct.
And
this water line will have the capability of pumping in excess of 24, 25 million gallons a day.
Right.
Which will meet our future demand for a good many years.
Yeah. And for those of us that served on the water, why don't you talk to the council a little bit about how this can be bored or open.
What we have proposed, what is known as fusible PVC, the bell and spigot you push together, but it's actually a heat fusing process that makes the pipe act as a single pipe. It will not have any joints in it. So in doing that, you can actually bore the pipe and pull it through. It has a tensile strength, I forget the actual number, but we can bore up to 7,000 to 8,000 feet. So in a lot of the wetland areas, we're gonna bore under those. I still have to get a permit from TCEQ to do that, but that will save us time and money by having to bore that area rather than open cut it and tear up and destroy the land. So it's a fairly new process. I've used it in the past. It works great. Like I said, with the soils that we have and the length we're going, we shouldn't have any breaks in it because PVC pipe has the capability to contract and move with the land. So we think it's a great process for this. And I'm like the mayor, I'm really looking forward to getting this done.
And while we're on that subject, I know it's a little off the subject, but the intake down there, it was my understanding that, are we able to use the current intake, or are we going to extend that west into a channel?
We're going to use the existing structure, the concrete structure. What we're going to do, in fact, I just got a quote this week to go ahead and get that structure cleaned out. And at the time, we found the old channel about 800 to 1,000 feet lakeside of our structure. We're going to install a 48-inch pipe out to that old channel, which would give us about 10 more feet of water in a drought condition. So that's what our plan is.
So we're extending the intake about 600 to 800 feet west from the.
Yes, sir.
Essentially straight west into the channel.
But our structure is intact. All we're doing is extending a suction pipe out to the deeper water.
Right. Any other questions? Did I ask for public testimony? If I didn't, is there any?
You did.
I did? Okay. And what is the pleasure of the council regarding
Move to
this?
approve.
Okay. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Lots of seconds. Please vote. Well, if we can't have a little fun.
Thank you all very much. I appreciate it.
Yep.
Okay, thank you, Chris, for all your work on this. I don't know how you're able to keep up with everything we've got you doing. Great job. Okay, moving to item 8, resolutions, consideration and action on a resolution accepting a grant for a portion of a new outdoor book drop at Walworth Harrison Public Library. Olivia? You're already
Yes,
there?
sir. We are in need of a new book drop at the library. The one that we just recently removed, we don't even have the shell of it on the property anymore, was 25 years old and was as old as the building, had been installed when we first opened it up in 1995. So this was going to be coming up sooner or later for us to need a replacement one to have out in the parking lot. But having it shut down for a period of time last year with COVID just really kind of did it in and has forced our hand to find something else to offer that convenience to our patrons. And then for some folks, it is an ADA compliant book drop we're looking for. It's just flat easier if you have mobility issues, the need to get out of your vehicle and drop items into the book drop that's actually built into the building. So this adds an ADA convenience factor as well as just a general one. And so we are asking today for acceptance of the funds from the F.L. Young Foundation. We've been able to procure roughly half of the cost of this book drop from them, and then approval of the remaining cost coming from library funds to purchase it and have out at the library.
Thank you. Any questions? No questions. Is there any public testimony regarding this issue? Thank you, Olivia, very much. If there's no public testimony, is there a motion and
I'd like to make a motion to approve.
okay? For a second?
Second.
Motion is second. Please vote. And it appears to have passed unanimously. Yes, it has. Thank you. Item 8B, consideration and action on a resolution entering into an interlocal agreement with Hunt County and the Hunt County Sheriff's Office. Mr. Ray.
All right, this is an agreement that we've been working on for quite some time to allow trustee inmate labor at the city's direction. If the city, the county's already approved this. The city approved it. Basically, the city would set up projects, minor public work projects that don't require any special skill, and the jail or the sheriff's office, which controls the jail, would provide crews of inmates to work around the city. Those inmates would be supervised by someone who's licensed to supervise inmates and who has a weapon, a gun, and will be there watching the inmates all day. The city, in exchange for the labor, will provide transportation, the full cost for however much it costs to have that armed guard there, and all of the tools necessary for whatever job. The county would pay for a sack lunch for the inmates. The city also has its insurance. We already have insurance to cover this, but the city's insurance is at risk to the extent that that there's any problems or either personal property damage or personal injury damage caused by the inmates while they're working for the city. That was actually the thing that took the longest to work out, was figuring out whose insurance covers what. The way that this language is written, the city's insurance would cover any damages up to $1 million per incident as the first layer of coverage. That's not going to have any real long-term financial impact on the city. Realistically, this is a very good deal for the city and for the county.
Thank you. Any questions?
Just a real quick one. We've researched and covered and ensured that if they are working for us on projects, whose medical coverage if they get hurt? Do we cover it, or does the county? Or
It depends on what you mean by medical coverage. If, you're
if an
talking about
inmate gets hurt working on a project and has to go to hospital or whatever, does it come out of our insurance or?
Ours.
Okay.
But there is
the
no
inmates are
workers'
covered.
compensation, if that's what you're asking about, because they're not employees. And
No,
they're
not
also not
workers' comp,
contractors.
but just
Yeah.
the medical bills being covered if somebody gets injured.
Yes, our general liability policy that we get through TML IRP would cover that up to the first $1 million. After that, there may be an open question about whose covers it, but the city's, almost every injury that we're going to have related to that or personal property damage is going to be covered by the $1 million per incident.
Thank you.
Daniel, in these discussions, was Any mention of what category of inmates are going to be doing this work? I mean, like, my worry would be if I was a citizen, high-risk inmates, are they going to be allowed to be outside the confines of the jail?
No, absolutely not. These are the trustee inmates. These are people who are short timers and who want to
Okay.
work off their time at a 2-to-1 or 3-to-1 ratio. The sheriff is very much taking a guiding hand in that and will make sure that they're not people like murderers who are up for a trial, because we have a lot of those. None of them will be on this case. These are going to be people who are at the judgment of the jailer and of the sheriff's office in general, are not risks for outside work. These are the people that you see often between Stewart and Stonewall Street cutting the grass with the green and white stripes. They're people who are not going to be there for long and who are not likely to try to run away or hurt someone.
Thank you.
Any other questions or public testimony regarding this issue? Yes. Mr. Morris.
Wayne Morris, 5600 Vale Street, Greenville. Just like to say this is a good idea that should have been coming a long time ago. Where I call home, well, my new home is old home, 25 years here in Greenville. But where I grew up at, our city did this regularly. As a matter of fact, when we constructed a new jail some years back, a lot of inmate labor traded for good time was used for the general labor with no issues. This helps those low-risk prisoners get out of jail sooner, back into society, hopefully, and it can pay dividends for the city and maybe cut costs on the projects themselves. 100% support it.
Thank you. Is there any additional public testimony regarding this issue? If not, what is the pleasure of the council?
I make a motion to approve.
Motion? Second. Please vote. And I think it passed unanimously. Did it?
It did.
It did. Okay, it did. Okay. Move to the consent calendar. City Secretary, will you please read the consent calendar?
City Council meeting minutes from October 26th. Ordinance authorizing an annual contract for street signs. Ordinance authorizing final payment to PaveCon for industrial drive reconstruction. Ordinance authorizing final payment and budget transfer to PaveCon for Ed Rutherford Drive reconstruction. Resolution approving a bid received on tax resale property for 3308 Houston Street.
Are there any comments on any of those issues?
I did have one question.
Good.
I thought that our tax resale auctions had been stopped for a long time. Are they back on again?
No, I mean, they've been ongoing. We've never stopped the resale properties, the outright sales. Project Restore is no longer a program because all those properties have been sold.
Right.
And I think there's maybe 4 left and they're not buildable or don't have water or sewer, have some other challenges. But no, outright sales are still ongoing and we've never stopped those. So these are just the outright sales that they're making a bid on them to our tax attorneys, and these are those. So.
Okay. What you maybe, this is for properties that didn't sell at the regular tax sale, which is the first Tuesday of each month. We definitely still have those. That's all 4 taxing entities together. This is for one that didn't sell that we happen to be the trustee for.
And those never stopped,
Thank you.
to my knowledge.
No, I don't think they did.
Yeah.
I think foreclosure stopped under COVID. Is that maybe what you're thinking about?
No, I thought the group that actually did the auctions had just stopped doing them in the last couple of years.
I don't know. We don't do the auctions. The county does
Yeah,
the
the
auction.
sheriff
Okay.
does the auction.
The sheriff does the auction, and then we just sell what gets given back to Greenville.
Okay.
We sell that through our tax attorney's office. So.
Okay, are there any other questions or comments regarding these 5 issues? If not, is there public testimony regarding any of these issues? If there is not, what is the pleasure of the council?
I move to approve the consent calendar.
I second.
Motion second, please vote. And it passes unanimously. Going to move to item 14. Item 14 regarding an item that was discussed in executive session, and ask, is there a motion regarding that particular issue?
I'd like to move that the council allow the city attorney to file suit against the owner of the property at 1216 I-30 if no agreement for the correcting the problem on their property can be reached with the city council's litigation committee.
Okay, and there will be no discussion on this item. Is there a second?
I second.
Okay. Motion is second, please vote.
I don't have it listed.
Pardon me?
We didn't have this on the,
Oh, that's right.
we didn't have it on the list, so you'll just have to vote.
Oh, okay. Please vote by raising your hand. Looks like it's unanimous. All in favor? Passes unanimously. Now, we'll move to city staff reports. Press, will you give us an update on the street bond, transportation committee, et cetera?
Sir, be glad to. Looks like we're moving in pretty good on the road bond. We got several of the streets that are finishing up the design of it. We just finished doing the Colony. We did a mill and overlay there. We should get another good 20 years life out of that development. We've now moved into the Cedars. We're starting the milling and overlay there. All the water and sewer in these developments are in good shape. We're catching these roads before they fall apart. If you remember that deterioration curve I showed you, we've already passed the point of no return. So if we can catch them now, before they get any worse, we can get another 20 years out of them. So that's what we're trying to do. And once we finish the Cedars, then we're moving over to Gabe Estates. And same thing, we can catch these streets now when we can do the mill and overlay, rather than waiting another 3 or 4 or 5 years when I may have to do more than a mill and overlay, do like a total reclaim on them. So we're actually saving a good bit of money by doing the mill and overlay on them now and getting another 20 years life out of them. So that's what our plan is now. We're finalizing the plans on Stanford Street. We hope to start that here very shortly. So everything seems to be falling in place. Our contractors are doing a very good job. They're keeping up with everything. I can't say any more about them. They're doing excellent work. Everything seems to be falling in place with us, and I'm very pleased with the progress we've been making with our street bond issue.
One of the questions the Transportation Committee had the last time was about potholes and utility cuts. Are we using a contractor on that now?
Yes, sir, we have been, and we did kind of get on our contractor about the smoothness of the resurfacing of the potholes and the utility cuts, and I can say he's doing a much better job now. So that's coming along good, but no, we have contractor doing our utility cuts. We have contractors working on some of the larger potholes that we have. Still the minor, the small potholes, we're still doing in-house. And they're doing a real good job with that. So we're getting caught up on that. Normally I have a report to you that we give at the end of the month, which we don't have in a meeting, so we were going to give you a full report on December's meeting. But I can say contractors are doing what we expect them to do. We're making very good progress, and you'll see a lot more work done. We've got numerous streets. I think in Mr. Freeman's district, we're putting in new water and sewer. Those are coming along. The contractor is really moving faster than we thought he could. He's getting a lot of pipe laid, and we're getting brand new water, brand new sewer, new services, and working with Atmos Gas. When they have gas in the area, they're replacing and removing their lines and changing those out when necessary. So we're getting a lot of good services done for the city right now.
And do you have any idea how many potholes and utility cuts have been fixed? Just an estimate?
We're probably running 150, 180 in the last few months. Summer, I don't.
While she's looking that up, both the contractors and your city staff are aware of the no bump standard, right?
Yes, sir.
When they finish this, you can drive over it and you don't feel a bump.
That's what I'm telling you. If I feel a bump, you're doing it over.
I think that was important to the transportation committee, right?
That's a technical specification now. so-
Okay, let's do that.
Quick question, I was making a note when you said, did you say Gabe Estates is next on tap?
Yes, sir.
Okay. As we're pulling things together now that we got all the data and the traffic data and everything, do we know which one of the 4 scenarios that's out on the city webpage that we're going to come closest to?
We're getting there. We just got all the traffic counts in. We're having some technical difficulty with our paver program. So IT has been working on that almost all day today. So hopefully by next meeting, I'll have that information for you. But we did get all the traffic counts in. They have got it into the proper spreadsheet. We're trying to get that imported into paver to run that now.
Okay, great, thank you.
Through November 5th, there's 169 potholes that have been repaired through November 5th.
Good. That's about a 5 or 6 week period, probably,
Just,
or less.
That's since August.
yeah,
That's
Oh,
August,
since August,
September,
okay.
October, November.
We said there were about 400 or so to fix, right?
400 that we had identified, but I guarantee you there's more.
Probably more now, yeah.
Okay.
Back
Kenneth
in-
has a whole different list.
I know. He gives it to me constantly.
They went out on social media and asked to report potholes, there's more than 400.
Yeah.
Well, just to our citizens, we want, the Transportation Committee's been working with press, and he's been working with his staff to make these potholes and utility cuts transition-free. I mean, you can, once we're finished with those, you should be able to drive over it and not even know that you drove over it. So sometimes in the past, there'd been a bump there. There was a bump before and there was a bump after, so we're trying to resolve that issue, so keep us informed.
I'm sorry. In the report that you're giving in December, will you list the streets that have been milled and overlaid, past, present, and future?
I can give you the ones, yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
If you haven't been out to the Cedars, I mean, I think they've completed that entire addition now, and I've driven through that several times, and I'm not a street guy, but it's very impressive what they've done, the way they've met the curbs and
Right.
the cross streets and all that. It's very impressive.
And what we've done, we've corrected some of the curbs that sank. We've corrected the valley gutters across the intersections. We've corrected the drainage problems, and then the rideability is great. It really rides good. We corrected some of the cross slope in the road to make sure the road drains properly. I'm very pleased with what we did in that subdivision. It looks very good, and it'll be that way for many years to come.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you, Press.
Thank you.
Okay, City Council discussion of proposed agenda items. Are there any items you'd like to put on the agenda? Discuss at some point. Can't discuss them tonight.
I believe the last meeting, I think it was Al, asked for the comprehensive plan.
Yeah, I did.
Can we get that the next meeting?
Sorry, I will update you. Yes, we're working on that. So we're just not we weren't in a place tonight to be able to give you a good update. So we want to make sure. So yes, that is on our list for December already.
Any other items?
Well, I think with the amount of folks that showed up tonight, maybe we can get some preliminary information on what the options could be to hopefully resolve.
I think the city staff is working on that.
Okay.
It's probably, that's the way I see it, so we'll see what happens. I think there are some issues or some interpretation issues that I won't go into. The city staff and press, our city attorney are working on with the city manager, so we'll see where that takes us.
Other than wishing everybody a happy Thanksgiving, I have nothing else.
Right. We're not going to see you until December the 14th, so happy Thanksgiving. You have board and commission minutes before you, the Greenville Board of Development minutes of September 21. And there is nothing else on this agenda, so this meeting is officially closed. Thank you for your attendance tonight. We appreciate everybody being here. Thank you.
Thank you.